Morning, welcome back to the beautiful Charente here in the southwest of France. Thought I'd do something a little bit different today and give you a guided tour of my property. So I thought I'd start down in my nature reserve and gradually walk back to the house, and then just show you what I've been up to, what each area consists of, and I'll add a few pictures and links to videos that I've made where I've worked on certain areas of the property, and just show you what's what. So first things first, about 1,000 feet walk down to the bottom of my nature reserve. So this area here is what I call my nature reserve, and it is basically just an acre of land that has no other value other than giving it to wildlife. You couldn't really farm this area. So yeah, if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark, and about 6 years ago I bought an old piece of property with a small cottage on it for €20,000, which at the time was just under £18,000. And so I've got about 3 acres of land, and I didn't buy it to live here. I bought it as a hobby, something to do. I was renting a place in the UK, and I had a tiny garden which I couldn't really do much with because I was renting, and I had no outside space to put something like a classic car, or had nowhere to, like a garage, had nowhere to do hobbies or anything like that. So I thought what I'd do is buy a cheap property somewhere local, which I'm an hour and a half from the UK here, where I can fly over, enjoy myself for a week, do a bit of DIY, do a bit of renovating, and do a bit of gardening, and fly back. That's the only reason I bought this property. I never intended on living here. So this is one of the few areas that I don't really do too much to. I did this area here with all this bracken. I did come down, and I will come down again. This is much less than it used to be. I came down last November and the November before and just trimmed this area just to keep on top of it, really. Nothing really lives in the bracken, and just wanted to open it up. I get deer coming here, and well, I'm not really sure what else comes in here, to be honest. So this is where I normally come down on a Sunday. It's Tuesday today. I normally come down on a Sunday and sort of spend a little bit of time and just soak it up, really, enjoy the peace and quiet, and it's my little sort of piece of heaven. So I've got a few sections of property all divided up, and I bought it as one big parcel, and that there is the entrance to the neighbour's field. There used to be a horse, which, if you've watched my channel for a while, you'll know all about him, that he is not on the property anymore. So that was the entrance to that field, and that is the entrance to this little field. So this little field is about 1/4 of an acre, and I used to look after all of it with the lawnmower until some cows came in and churned all the ground up. Now I can't mow that section there, but I do like to keep it nice and tidy. Not really sure what's going to happen with this. I need to get along there and trim those trees back. I do love the autumn colours. Just over there somewhere I can hear a woodpecker. So for the first year or two that I owned the property, I just spent all my time trimming back trees and trying to open the place up, and just trying to give myself an empty space with which I could do something with. Even though I don't know what that something is, even now, 6 years later, I'm still, working at improving the property. And I do try and keep on top of this grass, although this field, this is my big field. I say big field, it's about an acre, and I have been putting fence posts in. Well, I did that many months ago down that side, and just to secure this field. Perhaps one day I'll put something in here, but yeah, not been able to keep on top of the grass. This got so long earlier in the year because we had so much rain, and then my lawnmower just wouldn't cut it. So I spent months and months and months cleaning up this edge. This was where you can see where it used to come out. The field had sort of shrunk by about 15 feet, and now I can actually see my fencing, which is really important here. You need to look after your fencing if you don't want to upset people. And this is part of the field I do look after, a little bit too much probably, and I'm turning it into like a football pitch. And yeah, I do kind of like it neat and tidy, but I make a rod for my own back actually, trying to keep it this tidy. Now this here is a shelter that I built for the horse that I mentioned earlier, and with the help of my amazing subscribers, yeah, built a shelter. And while he was here, he did enjoy coming in and getting out of the super hot summer sunshine. So yeah, I've been busy this past year getting some fencing done, getting some gates put in, and just trying to secure the property as best I can. So this gate leads from my field into probably one of my favourite areas of my property, which is a little orchard. It's about, and I've fenced down this side, you can see, it's about 175 feet long, and I think at its widest point about 80 or 90 feet wide, maybe a bit more. And yeah, this was a complete disaster when I first bought the property, and I didn't really know. I couldn't get in here when I did my viewing. It was a complete disaster, and it's taken many months to get it tidy. And now it's kind of secure, and I could keep it with keep it filled with chickens. So I do have a few fruit trees in here. That there is a cherry tree. I did get some cherries off of that. Got some cherries off of that last year. And that's a random oak tree growing there. Don't particularly want oak growing in the middle of the orchard. A self-seeded tree, not sure what that is. That's probably a cherry. And I've got 2 or 3 apple trees here, which are not that great if I'm honest. So this area here was a total disaster. You couldn't actually see that barn that backs onto my property there. It was so overgrown, and I cut all these trees back, and it was just a nightmare filled with bramble, and yeah, just a disaster. And yeah, I've renovated, well, tidied up I should say, some old buildings, and I put some I'll put a link to a video where I had to replace part of the roof on the chicken coop. And yeah, there's actually a few videos there. It took quite a lot of time and effort to tidy up that chicken coop. And I built a little arbour, and I've planted a grapevine which has made it to the top. Hopefully we'll get some grapes there soon. And yeah, this is quite a nice little area here. It's about 60 or 70 feet long, maybe 15, 18 feet wide, for some chickens. This is my extremely old and rickety wood store, and yeah, I don't use firewood anymore. I'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, I've still got it, and it's got a tiled roof and really needs to be taken down and rebuilt, I imagine, with something more useful, I think. So this is outside the front of the house. Total disaster. When I first bought the property, one of the first things I did was replace a rickety old fence that you couldn't really see was hidden under a huge amount of bramble and shrubs and weeds that was in this spot here, and I've got it nice and tidy now. But yeah, the first thing I did was tidy up this fencing and put a new fence in, pair of gates, so I can get my trailer in and out when I need to. So back to the garden. The garden is about 100 feet, if you was to measure it, 100 feet by 100 feet roughly, which is about 1/4 of an acre, I'm guessing, with the house sitting on it. So quite a nice size back garden, and this is probably where I spend most of my time and where I've put absolutely mountains of effort. This garden was a complete disaster when I got here. You may remember what it looked like when I arrived back in March. I'll put a link in the description to my very first video, and I'll put a link at the top of the screen. Yeah, my first video is worth watching. It was terrible. It was the first time I ever picked up a camera in my life to talk to, and yeah, it shows near the end of the video what it was like when I arrived back in March 2 years ago. And yeah, I've spent a lot of time and effort in this area because this was really the reason I bought the property. As I say, I didn't ever plan on living here when I bought the house, and I just wanted somewhere to do a bit of gardening and just sort of tidy up, which was kind of an impossible idea looking back. Completely impossible to maintain a garden whilst living in another country. Anyway, so I'll just give you a little look round. So one of the first jobs I did was, while I was tidying the garden, was to get rid of an outside toilet that was basically a tiny little well, a little shed really, like a dunny, which was pretty much where that flower bed was. And yeah, I just pushed it over and yeah, got rid of it. Kind of gross really, and that would have been in action, I guess, during the up until the late 1990s. Yeah, and it was basically a hole in the ground, and where that hole in the ground was is now a flower bed. And yeah, I'm learning about what grows here well and what doesn't, because summer here is extremely warm, and yeah, gets over 40 degrees in the summer, and some things in there can't cope. It is an absolutely beautiful day. It seems to be roasting. I'm roasting anyway, and it's the 4th or 5th of November today. Absolutely lovely. Yeah, so one of the first things I did was lay out a vegetable patch. Yeah, it was important to me at the time to get a vegetable patch on the go, and I've got 5 rows set up. Well, 5 rows set up and only 3 dug over. And yeah, I'm not really having a great deal of luck there. Although I do have a pumpkin there and some lettuce there, which is really what I'm going to get good at growing. Got some onions in there. Not a lot else. Not that you would expect for November anyway. So yeah, when I first bought the house, you couldn't actually see the house. It was completely covered in shrubs and bushes and trees, and yeah, I've made a point of doing all the work myself. Absolutely every single tiny little job I've tried to do myself. I think there has been once or twice before I actually moved here permanently where I've asked for someone's help, but since I've been here permanently, I've done every single tiny little thing myself, and I'm quite keen to carry that on. And although that does have its drawbacks. So yeah, when I first bought this property, I didn't actually own this piece of land that's in front of the barn. Yeah, it had not been put on for sale with the rest of the parts of the property, so it got missed by the legal people, the notaire, and yeah, I had to buy it separately, and I didn't actually know who owned it when I originally bought the property. But yeah, I got a mystery note, would you like to buy this piece of property, and I paid €100 for it. But so before I actually owned it, I put a row of trees down to try and hide the mess that it was, because it basically was just a 10-foot high pile of bramble, and it looks quite nice now, although I don't really need it. It's an extra, I don't know, an extra 100 feet of garden that I probably don't need. So not long after arriving back in March 22, I discovered I had a major drainage issue, in the fact that there really wasn't any, and all the downpipes to the house just drained to the back of the house and didn't actually go anywhere. They just drained onto the ground, and yeah, caused a complete and utter nightmare. And yeah, I'll add some links to some videos in the description of what I had to do. But yeah, basically that's like a little workshop area there that was completely flooded, and yeah, I ended up having to put some drainage in, and I happened to find a drainage pipe where that flower bed is. So yeah, this area looked like a total disaster, and yeah, I was kind of compelled once all the work was done to create something that looks really pretty, and I'm really pleased with this actually. Obviously, it's still very much a work in progress. Not really sure what I'm doing. I just kind of make it up as I go along. But I built a little shelter here to hopefully give myself some shade from the summer sun, and it hasn't really worked, but it is perfect for getting some work done when it's raining. So yeah, this is just an area where I do a bit of gardening, bit of planting up, and I do a bit of DIY. I've got my chop saw out ready to carry on with some work that I've started, and it's where I keep my trailer. I didn't really know what to do with this area, so I put some grass seed down, and yeah, as I say, this is very much a work in progress. So this barn that backs onto my garden is not mine. I could buy it if I had the money, which I definitely don't. Yeah, I think the guy wants about 13,000 euros for that barn, and seems the roof is collapsing. Yeah, I think that's a little bit too much money for me. Yeah, so that's outside. So I'll take my Wellington boots off, and we'll have a little wander in the house and just show you what I've been up to. And again, I'll show you some before and after pictures, and you know, I've made 700 videos, although they're not all available on my channel anymore. Still 400 is, and if you go back to near the beginning of the channel, you'll get to see all the bits and pieces that I've been up to. So I knew when I moved to France that I was going to have to live very, very cheaply, especially if I wanted to put this project together with some kind of standard. And I gave myself initially a budget of £5,000 to get myself established, to get the house livable, get it warm enough to stay here, get some furniture, build a kitchen, buy a washing machine, yeah, I bought my sofa and some bits and pieces, and yeah, so that money lasted about 6 months, and yeah, most of it got spent on setting things up, on buying materials, buying food, paying bills, yeah, basically getting established. And since then, all the work that I've done since that initial £5,000, I've given myself a budget, a renovation budget, are you ready for this, of around 25 quid a week to renovate this entire 3-acre property, which is kind of insane. But I do actually think if you put your mind to it and you live frugally, you can do it. It's just going to take time, hard work, and yeah, basically giving everything that you've got to try and achieve your goal. Yeah, I think people that go out and spend hundreds of thousands on furniture and kitchens and property, hundreds of thousands, millions on, I don't understand it. I don't understand it, and I don't know how their lives are any better than mine. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is just show you around the house and show you a few before and after pictures of what it looked like when I first arrived, when I viewed the property, and yeah, show you what I've done. My idea, and it was always my idea, was to turn this house into a tiny house. I don't know if you know about the tiny home movement, if you Google that or type it into YouTube. Yeah, the tiny home movement is, I think, the future. So this is a 930 square feet property, and although I'm going to use most of it, I'm going to use it really, really efficiently, and I've put some insulation in, and yeah, I've done away with my wood burner and just trying to make it as efficient and as cheap to run as possible. And my last 2 electric bills that were read by me were 35 euros a month. They were summer bills, so pretty much no real, although I do all my cooking with electricity, and I heat my hot water with electricity, and obviously I've got my lights, and my computer is obviously all electric. So yeah, no heating in the summer, but very, very cheap bill. So the idea is to be as cheap as possible. So originally the back door actually came into a bedroom, and yeah, there was a bed here, and the house was just filled with wardrobes. There's a light in that corner behind my camera where that lamp is. That was a window, and I've just replaced that window with a UPVC one. But yeah, this was a bedroom, and there were 2 equal-sized bedrooms, and I did actually knock the wall down that divided this space into the 2 bedrooms, which turned out to be a brick wall. Yeah, I knocked it down and kind of rebuilt it. I rebuilt it the other side of that doorway. Interesting little story. These 2 doors are the original doors that used to be in this area, although that door there, the white one, used to be where the sink was, and that blue one used to be where the white one was, and I swapped the door frames around and eventually done away with that door, and I put my kitchen sink there, but we won't talk about the kitchen sink in this video. Yeah, so that wall there is not actually a straight wall. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you this. It doesn't go straight across the room. It goes across, is that going to focus? It goes across at a jaunty angle, because why not? So yeah, the idea is not to take the house too seriously. I've put a window in, and that originally was my bedroom, the other side of that window, but I still like it. I still like the window being there. It is double glazed for no reason whatsoever. I picked it up for 25 quid, I think, around there at the reclamation centre, and yeah, I've gradually turned my living room into a really cosy space, and through that door is my kitchen. So this is very much a work in progress, this kitchen. It's about, I think it's about 7 feet wide, and it's about 14 or 13 foot 6 long, something like that. And yeah, it does its job. I've got all the units that I made in here, and it's perfectly adequate for moi. And yeah, as I say, work in progress, still moving things around. Got loads and loads of stuff to do in here, loads of work to do. There's only, I won't talk about it in this video, but at the moment there's only one power outlet in here, and that is behind my bike. So I'm running extension cables everywhere, which is not ideal. So yeah, if you're interested, the living room is I think it's 14 feet by 14 feet, which if you speak Australian is about 4.3 metres by 4.3 metres, so perfectly adequate for me. So originally the house consisted of basically 3 rooms, and the bathroom was in the extension, and still is in the extension. So yeah, the main house was basically just 3 rooms. One great big room, I suppose the grand room or the great room they would call it, and 2 bedrooms which were about 13 feet by 13 feet 6, something like that. So quite reasonable sized bedrooms, but yeah, seemed like a strange layout really, considering the back door entered into a bedroom rather than into a living room. So strange how the house was laid out. So this is where I've done most of the work in the house, and it's completely different now. I've divided up what would have been the great room into a couple of different spaces. I built up a couple of partition walls, and this, I didn't do this intentionally. Well, I did this bit out here intentionally, but I'll show you the bedroom in a second, and I definitely didn't do that intentionally. All I was trying to do was to try and create a smaller and more easy to heat property. Is the camera going to focus for me? So yeah, maybe we'll start in the bedroom, which is absolutely my favourite place. So yeah, I did lots and lots of work in here, and I only recently moved in here. The kitchen was originally where my bedroom was, and yeah, this is now my absolute favourite place. It's warm, toasty warm, comfortable, absolutely silent and dark, and is the perfect bedroom. And I made it a little bit smaller when the kitchen was just outside of this room. I actually moved this wall back and made the bedroom slightly smaller, which is no problem whatsoever. The smaller the better as far as I'm concerned. So that's about, that bit there is about 7 or 8 feet wide. That's a couple of feet wide. I think it ended up about 10 feet by, how long was it? I think about 12 feet long. And this is where the fireplace is. And the fireplace was a bit of a disaster until I sort of got it tidied up, and I was encouraged to do so because my son was visiting, and it turned out to be really, really nice. But yeah, this area here used to be, as I say, the great room, and so the fireplace was there with a wood burner, and where that chair is where there was an old wood-fired cooker actually, and that used to have a flue that went up there and through a hole in the chimney breast. So yeah, this has worked out really, really nice, and really, really easy to keep warm. And I spent lots and lots of time and effort insulating all these walls with fiberglass insulation, and it's absolutely the best place in the world for me. So the bedroom built like that created this hallway area, which earlier in the year you'd have seen, if you were watching, that this area was actually home to my kitchen units, which is why that area there is that shape and size, because it actually housed my kitchen worktop unit that I'd built perfectly, and I've still got the cooker hood to move. This is very much work in progress. So yeah, the kitchen sink I originally had under that window, another window into the living room, why not? And I've obviously put the kitchen sink on the other side of that wall now under the window, and that's left this space here. And I'm currently in the process of building a wall with a door and another window, why not, to house basically some storage space. And yeah, this is my storage area for, well, dumping ground really. My bike's going to end up in here, and all my tools. I've got an understairs cupboard there which I stack loads and loads of wood, which I've got some out here at the moment because I'm still working on this wall. And the stairs, which are blocked up now, although I say they're blocked up, you can get up there if you really needed to, which I don't, because upstairs has got 12 inches of loft insulation on the floor. So I'm a 52-year-old man, and basically I'm creating the perfect property for me, which is cheap to run, cheap to own, and the bills are cheap. Do I sound cheap? I just don't see the point in wasting money unnecessarily on myself. I very rarely spend money on myself. And again, as I said, I don't see the point in spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on a property when you don't need to, really. And most people around the world are spending that sort of money on property. So yeah, I'm creating the perfect property for one person. So it's too big. 930 square feet is too big, but as I say, I'm making it as efficient as possible. So I'll quickly show you the bathroom, which I kind of loathe, and it's one of the rooms that I've done the least work in. So yeah, this used to be the corner of, as I say, the great room, and I just built a cupboard there to house, I think my Hoover's in there, and some bits and bobs. So yeah, going into the bathroom, originally there was a top load washing machine in this corner, and there was a bidet, and there was a heater on the wall. So yeah, this bit here I've changed. Obviously I've installed a new hot water tank and a heated towel rail, and yeah, not much else really. It's had a coat of paint, and I hate this bathroom. I hate the shower. I hate it with a passion, and it's my plan to do something with it, something interesting with it. I don't know what, but yeah, that shower has to go. And I either want a nice shower where the hot water tank is. I'd like to put it this side of the window. That's about 4 feet wide, that wall there, big enough for a shower. Or failing that, put a bathtub in there, which would go, the bathtub would be easier to fit than a shower, because I've got plumbing which is about 12 or 13 inches up the wall, and if I was going to put a shower tray in, I'd have to move all that plumbing. So yeah, not quite sure how I'm going to do it. A bathtub seems to be the perfect option. Anyway, just a quick guided tour of my property, which was extremely cheap to buy in my opinion. And yeah, definitely a work in progress, and I don't mind playing with things. I don't mind playing with walls, and I don't mind playing with colours. This is a dark blue, which does look quite nice, completely impractical, and probably won't be there forever. In fact, that won't be there much longer, I don't think. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my little tour. Please like and subscribe, and come and see what I'm up to. Loads of things going on. There's always loads of things going on in my little life. I don't know why my life is so busy, and a lot of people find it interesting. I don't know why either. So yeah, come and like and subscribe, and I will see you soon.